Turf Talk with Drew Miller.
On this week's episode of Tiger Turf Talk, we host the assistant groundskeeper of the Cincinnati Reds, Mr. Christo Wallace. This is such a fantastic episode with such a fantastic human being. I met Christo when we were accepting the award of Pioneer in the Field back in Palm Beach, STMA. Can't put a year on it because I can't keep up with COVID and everything else, but it has been awesome to reconnect and discuss everything that he's going through when it comes to Major League Baseball, especially coming from a COVID year into somewhat of a normal year. We also got to talk about how he had such a unique journey to get to this point in his career, from finding his way into turf management right off the bat, going back on an online school, getting his degree, and just thriving in this industry at such a young age. It's really awesome to see, again, such a young industry leader when it comes to everything moving forward. He is looking to grow this industry. He's looking to help any way that he can in his position in Cincinnati, working with his boss, Derek. It's incredible to see the growth that has come from Cincinnati from before with Stephen Lord and everything that has been developed by that organization when it comes to the grounds crew. It's just an awesome episode that you definitely don't want to miss. Christo is a phenomenal person, great guy, and we cannot thank him enough for taking the time and coming on the podcast. So we hope you enjoy this episode of Tiger Turf Talk. Good afternoon and welcome to the 52nd episode of Tiger Turf Talk. I'm your host, Drew Miller. Today we have the assistant groundskeeper of the Cincinnati Reds at the Great American Ballpark, Mr. Christo Wallace. How are you doing today, sir?
Not too bad, man. How are you?
Another day. Just got to keep fighting,
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
You're in the heart of the season and everything. You were just talking about how you have to go back tonight and cover the tarp. How's the season going so far? How's everything been for the crew and whatnot? Sort of weaning off the COVID and weaning off the craziness of that. And again, coming back to, that chaotic thing that we all love with Major League Baseball groundskeeping.
It's been going pretty good. Can't complain for the most part. I think as we're all experiencing this year, which is Mother Nature. She controls everything, I think, every year. So that's a normality that we see every year, with COVID or without COVID. I think a lot of people have been struggling a little bit this year with weather, but, I think up until last homestand, we had not had a homestand yet where we didn't pull tarp. So
you just hope for that one chance, come on.
Yeah.
2 games left. Don't make us pull the tarp. Come on.
Yeah, we finally made it last homestand. But unfortunately, like you already stated, we had a day game today. So I'll be heading back in at 8 o'clock tonight, and we're going to tarp her back up tonight. So that streak is gone.
Dang it.
Right.
So close.
Yeah.
So close.
Yeah.
No, but with everything with that, I lost my train of thought there. I had everything that goes into what you do with your position as the assistant groundskeeper, and I've said this for a long time to the people I know, the assistant groundskeepers are really the ones where the feet are on the ground doing the work, doing the what's the proper term? The plan, executing the plan of the head groundskeeper and what their expectations are. Obviously, I know. I used to work for Matt Brown over in Pittsburgh. He loved to get his hands dirty. He'd much prefer to be out there with us than in an office. But again, time comes where the assistant groundskeeper takes over. Can you sort of talk about what it's been like for you in that role there in Cincinnati?
Yeah. This is year 9 in baseball in general now. So I think, finding those different places and how they do things, and like you said, with the meetings, and I've been a head guy in the minor league levels, and then I was also an assistant in Toledo, and then now I've been here for 3 years. So when you come in here, you got to start figuring out, and kind of that first year I kind of dipped my toes in the water a little bit to see, to follow Derek around a little bit, to kind of see how he would manage things, how he'd manage people, the field itself, how our field played. And, had to learn pretty quickly with Steve stepping out this past year and stepping up now. And Derek's taking over the reins now. And so with him taking over all those meetings, which is quite often. So a lot of the times it's me communicating with coaches during BP, or moving, those extra screens around, or those extra cages, or pitching machines that they would need. So a lot of times it's making sure my ducks are in a row. And I don't know, it sounds bad, but a lot of times I feel like I'm real scatterbrained, because, you got to make sure, like, I'm like, okay, is the dirt wet enough right now? Or, are we set up behind me over here? Are we, it's just, luckily we also have the second assistant, Devin Herman, who is fantastic. And he's a new and young up and comer in this industry. And he's coming into his own very, very quickly. And, without the three of us, I think that's what makes it really easy with Derek being in meetings, 60% of the time, maybe, probably. So, without the core of the three of us and the management, and the biggest backbone is the guys behind you, and without our crew in general, you wouldn't be able to do what you do. And it's just, you can't thank them enough.
Absolutely. So you were sort of talking about it there. There was a transition from head groundskeeper, Stephen Lord, right? Am I wrong in saying that?
Yeah, Stephen
He's
Lord.
been there forever. He's sort of been running the show in Cleveland, Cincinnati. Wow, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
For quite some time now, to make that sort of shift and keep your role in the same sense between the two. How has that been? How has that transition been? A lot of people don't go through that when it comes to the MLB, because very rarely are you going to see a head groundskeeper leave their post during the middle of someone's, say, like your tenure with the Reds.
Right. I mean, this is a credit to Steve. It's a credit to Derek. The culture that was created here before I even got here, they had a huge bond and of, went outside of work itself, and just of friendship. And that was created here with a lot of the guys. It's a very easygoing type of culture. So when Derek took over, that was our main goal and hope when Steve left, that we would be able to stay in-house and succeed the way that we wanted to, and kind of keep what we already had going. So not much has changed. Besides the fact that Derek's learning how to do meetings, which he's not happy about at times, but it works, because like you said with Matt Brown, like they would rather be getting their hands dirty and, and be out there playing in the dirt and mowing with us. But it comes with the territory, and he's doing a great job with it and loves it. And, it's just kind of, it kind of helped due to the fact that when Steve left, that we had already been together for 2 years. So, just kind of watched Derek just jump over in the driver's seat, and I jumped out of the back seat and got in the front seat with him. So it's been fun.
I love that. That's awesome. Just the analogy you just used there. Chinese fire drill. Everybody go.
Right. Absolutely. Start running, man.
Oh, gosh.
Don't panic, though.
No, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So with that culture, and it's recognizable, whether it's through social media or the people that have interned there, internships in Cincinnati are different than a lot of places. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I hope in a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah,
Sorry.
No, absolutely. No, I hope in a good way, man. That goes back to Steve, and he created this monster, and he started this internship program, man, and it's admirable. It's kind of like the Nielsen Mafia, and that's just like when I was coming up in minor leagues and starting as a young guy in this industry. And that's weird to say because I'm only 29. And
you still are young. Yes.
Right. So, when I'm starting this industry, I see people like Steve Lord in the internship program he had and the Nielsen Mafia. And you're like, dude, wherever I end up, I want to start something like that. And I want to build this monster, I want to become the Nick Saban, the Urban Meyer of turf industry, and just start this monster and just have people that we just have this huge foundation of people that have succeeded and, in this industry behind us, with us, and have become part of our backbone. And the reason why we succeed, because without those interns, we don't succeed here in Cincinnati. And everybody knows that. Those kids are, first of all, they keep us young. With all this hip language and everything, I learned something. I learned something new every day, man. But when he left, I vowed to keep that thing going, and it's awesome to get those guys in here every year and just watch them learn, watch them grow over the summer, and wait to see where they go next. That's just. It's fun to see, and it's fun to see them, get excited over the little things, that mowing for the first time, or just watching baseball. It really brings you back, because I think a lot of times when you're out there working those 15-hour days, you forget where you're at, and when you bring somebody in like that, those young kids, and you watch them walk into that stadium for the first time, and their eyes just light up, you're like, all right, man, like that's cool, because it just makes you realize, like, all right, like that my end goal, I might still be here, but it makes you realize not to take things for granted. And with those kids around here, they just, you can't say enough about them.
Absolutely. I remember there was one time I felt so terrible. So when I first started in Pittsburgh, I was working for Chris Ecton with the Steelers, and my roommate
Go Browns, by the way, though, man.
I'm a Giants fan, so it doesn't matter. We're worse than you now, so who cares? But I'm working for Chris with the Steelers, and I remember my dad, one of his teacher's brothers, was putting me up, and I was renting a place with him, and he was a Pittsburgh guy through and through, huge Steelers fan. And I get into town, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna take the day off, show you around and everything. I was like, okay, great, can we stop by work real quick? I just want to introduce myself to my new boss. And Chris pulls around the stadium in a cart, picks me up. And I say, hey, can he come with us? And he said, yeah, sure. So the roommate jumps in the back, and we pull down onto the field, and I just hop out, and I'm walking, and I turn around, and this kid's like, oh, right. My gosh, I'm on the grass. I am on Heinz Field. This is happening. And it was funny because he sent stuff to his sister, and his sister yelled at my dad because her brother was on Heinz Field within the first day of me being there. I was like, it's true about taking stuff for granted and how much, like, how important that is to people, and it's crazy to see that kind of stuff. You were sort of talking about it. Again, you're a much younger guy in the industry. Even if you want to say 29 is old, it's not. And we like me, I'm only 26, 25, something like that. I got to figure that out. We have a different lens than a lot of the people, like you're talking about, the Nielsen Mafia and all those guys that have been in this for so long. Right. What have you seen sort of as a whole in the industry, the outlook with when it comes to labor, the professionals that are coming in? I mean, like you were saying, the hip language, I have a high school classroom. Like, it's every day there's something new. But again, being able to see those kids and sort of take an interest, and I've got kids who have been interning on golf courses, and one of my kids was up with Pittsburgh again up with Pittsburgh with Steelers this year. Like, seeing that, and what do you see sort of the outlook of the future of this industry based on your experience, again, from what you've seen?
Oh, man. I think it can go one of two ways. First of all, I think it all depends on their experience with you. You could make this kid's future bright and excited and make him want to keep going. Or a lot of the times you can be that guy to run people out of it. I think a lot of the times we bring a lot on ourselves and take stress out on people and things without realizing it. And I think I think it depends on how you teach people while they're with you and how they enjoy their summer, because I think that'll make or break a kid. And I think in this industry right now, we need youth, man. And there is no doubt about it. And, I think the hours scare them a lot of the times. It's you got to be really, really into this. There's no doubt about it, I think. But a lot of the times when these kids come in, a lot of them are committed. And, they want to be committed. They just want to learn. And I think a lot of the times, I think that might be the scariest thing for them is the hours, and learning that side of things. Hopefully we can find ways to keep driving the young youth into it. And that's what I've been after for the last 5 or 6 years now, is finding ways to keep new classes coming up, whether that's having field days, having those interns word of mouth talking about our internship, or, just finding ways to talk to these kids, whether it's having my DMs open on Twitter where they can talk to me and ask about, always responding when I can. I might not be great about it at times, but, in a dead of a 12-game homestand, but, just trying to be an open book for them and trying to keep this window open and keep these young kids going. And once they get to you, I think that's the biggest thing is finding, for these kids, dude, I've been all over the place. I've done golf, I've done baseball, I've done football. The biggest thing for them, and I tell kids all the time, I'm not afraid to tell it, dude, find your niche. Like, even if you come to us and you just decide that, dude, baseball's not for me and I want to go back to golf, great. I don't care if you end up in baseball, because I just want you to end up in turf, because we just need individuals in all three sectors right now. Like, whether it's sports, whether it's just regular professors or just, golf. I think we need youth, and we need to find ways to keep it growing.
Absolutely. And we're trying in our own way here at Brentsville for sure. So hopefully we'll see something come out of it, right?
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah. So you were talking about how you've done a little bit of everything, and you had to find your niche. What was your journey, and how did you sort of find turf grass in all of, again, when we talk about turf management, I mean, there are so many times where, like, I didn't know about it until I was a freshman in college, like, people don't know about us. So how did you find it, and sort of what was your journey through the industry up until this point where you're with the Reds?
It's kind of funny, man. My dad ran golf country clubs his entire life, and he was in the business side of things. And the first time he ever took me to a golf course, I think I was 5 or 6 years old, and might have been younger, but I was out there with him, and I ran straight to the bunkers instead of trying to learn how to play golf with them. And now it's funny because I play golf religiously now, but that was my biggest thing. And I remember used to run around my backyard, and, you play football with all your friends, or baseball in the backyard with all of them. And I used to get in trouble because I would take the topsoil and everything and try to make my own makeshift mounds and everything in the backyard. And my mom used to get so mad. And it was just like, mulch or dirt would go missing, and spray paint would go missing because I'd be painting lines in the backyard, or when there was a big snowstorm, I would shovel out yard lines to play snow football back there. And, it was awesome. But then one summer, my dad was like, hey, why don't you go get a summer job at one of the local golf courses, around here. I'll get you in with some of the guys I know. And I said, okay. I was 18, 17, and had no clue. I was just my dad wanted me to start getting a better stable job, and as I was getting ready to graduate high school, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. When I left high school, I was going to go into business administration. Absolutely hated it. I went one semester and I was working on the golf course at the same time, and I'm learning all about the numbers and finance classes. I'm like, dude, this is miserable. I could never sit in an office like that 9 to 5. And so I started talking to these guys at this golf course, and I just started like falling in love with what I was doing. And I was like, guys, like, what, like, is this actually like a job or profession? Like, that's the biggest thing with when I say we need to find a way to youth, because I feel like a lot of times young kids have no idea, man. They, like you said, they have no idea about what we do or that it's an actual career. And when people think about, like, all they think about at first, like, oh, that's cool, he cuts grass for the Reds. It's much more than that. But, I started talking to him, and then I ended up, there was a Mahoning Valley Scrappers, which is short season for the Cleveland Indians where I lived. And they actually needed interns that summer. So I ended up working at the golf course from like 5 a.m. to like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then going to the Scrappers, working their games and that at night, and then doing it all over again tomorrow. And
God bless you. Jeez.
Yeah. And that's how
Whoa.
I got started. And then the following year, I moved to Cleveland, and I was going to work on the grounds crew at my dad's country club in Cleveland, where he was living at the time, and saw that the Indians were hiring full time, and I was like, dude, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to wing it and just apply and see what happens. And I ended up getting it, and stayed there for 3 years. Worked for the Browns as well. While I was there, I enrolled at Ohio State. Wanted to keep my job, so I talked to Pam Sherritt at Ohio State and started doing the online program so I could keep my job at the same time and build my resume, because I didn't want to lose that, because I figured I was in a good spot. Then after spending about 4 years in Cleveland there, I got the head job at the Lake County Captains, which was also in Cleveland, so I didn't have to move, which was pretty awesome and unheard of in this industry. Stayed there for 2 seasons. And then I went out to New Hampshire to take the head job there. And that was 2017, 2018. Went there to take the head job, stayed there for about 3 months. Unfortunately, I had to come home for a family emergency. My father got sick, so we stayed home, and I knew that at that time I had to be closer to him. So then it was the craziest thing. I knew I wanted to stay in the industry. I didn't know how, but I knew I had to be in Ohio at the time and close to him. My sister lived in Toledo, and it just so happened that Jake Tyler of the Mudheads was looking for an assistant. And it was like God just opening up his hands for me and just saying, like, hey, here you go, and let's do this. And at that point, it was so awesome, because I was able to stay in the industry and yet have my father live with us and care for him while having my sisters and my now wife's help. And then from there, Robbie Dworkin left the Cincinnati Reds to go run Cincinnati FC, and it opened, and it just felt right, like the right move. And I've been here for 3 years now.
Hey, sounds great.
Yeah.
The
wild ride, but
the Fisher Cats, I've actually been to that stadium in Manchester, right?
Yeah.
Were you there when they wasn't it like a full, what am I trying to say? Like no synthetic anything was put on the field, like no synthetic fertilizers.
So that was right after I left.
Okay.
Like literally. And so I didn't actually end up doing any games there, because when I had moved out there in November, and then was getting everything ready for the next coming season and everything like that. And then my dad got sick, so I had moved back here. Heck, dude, February.
Gotcha.
And so I'd only been there through the winter, the worst parts in the year in New Hampshire. Sorry for anybody if I offend you out in the East Coast.
I got family up in New Hampshire. I know what you're saying. Getting
Holy
snowed
moly,
in at
man.
Christmas up on
Yeah.
top of a mountain with my cousins is not a fun thing. Well, it's fun, but you know what I mean. It's not the
Yeah.
safest thing. But
No, the
no,
first time I walked out there in one of those nor'easters, I walked out there with my dog, and he was a beagle, and he goes out there and the snow's up to my kneecaps, and he just looks up at me like, heck no, man. Like this, like I can't even walk. Yeah, we are not going.
Around. This is not happening right now. This is
right.
not a thing.
Yeah.
So with everything being in Cincinnati now, last year was sort of a really weird time for everyone. And I've been able to talk to a couple different groundskeepers in the MLB. It was really weird for MLB groundskeepers because you were stuck in a rut where you knew you were going to have to be ready. You just didn't know when. What was that experience like? And how did you guys sort of combat we got to have MLB preparations right now, but we don't at the same time, and we have no money and all that. How was that sort of getting ready for that year?
Dude, I'll honestly say Cincinnati Reds were awesome during the time with everything to us. They stayed very transparent with us. They were trying to keep us above the 8 ball at every moment. I won't say the unknowing was fun. It was miserable. Waking up every day, not knowing if we were going to get to do what we loved every day. I mean, let's face it, man, as much as we all say it'd be really cool to take care of a field that nobody plays on, guess what? It's not that fun. And it was just, walking in every day to crickets and not hearing anybody, and especially to the point where things got really bad. And, they were unfortunately forced at some point to start giving some furloughs around the stadium for a time there. And things got quiet, things got scary, and nobody really knew what was coming next. And heck, man, there was that one point in July, I think, or June, and where we started thinking like, dude, this ain't happening. Like they couldn't come to an agreement. And we were mowing daily. We were also running the youth academy. The three of us were. That's all that was left at that point was Derek, Steve, and I. And we were just running the youth academy at the same time as we were running the stadium, going back and forth. And there would be some times where we'd have some of the players still in town, and they would work out, maybe 3 to 5 of them, where they would just want to do BP or just throw to try and stay in shape because nobody had no idea. And there was that one point there where it's like, dude, this is just not going to happen. And then all of a sudden, like a week or so later, things started breaking, and we're like, oh my goodness, like we might get back to something here. And, when we got that phone call finally, like, hey, we're going to go. Like it was very relieving just because of the stress. You just don't like waking up every day wondering, because at some point there you start worrying about if you're going to have a job tomorrow. And, because it's just like, how long can they keep us around here, to mow and water and fertilize, where it's almost like at one point with no play and everything, it's like, you just get very scared. And losing, doing what you love every single day and having the chance of that being ripped out of your hands, it's freaky.
Yeah, it does not sound like fun at all, and especially with the quiet. It's never good when it's quiet,
No, and I'll tell you what, I think that was the biggest thing that I look forward to this year was having people back, because just hearing that roar again, it's nuts. Like the first time you heard it, it's like, okay, like this, I missed that.
This is real. We're alive. Here we go.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of roar, okay, we got to get into this part.
Yeah.
No one had fun in COVID except for your grounds crew. Can I just say that?
Oh yeah, we took
with
it
everything with everything that was going on, and it was just hilarious to watch, like on highlights and whatnot. You guys, if you could sort of just tell the story behind it, because I could speak of it, but you're the one that actually knows what happened. So if you could just sort of talk how that came about and really how like rejuvenating it was for you during such a terrible time,
So it kind of started on like opening day. Like we were going through this summer training 2.0, call it whatever you want to. And we kind of, at that point, we knew that we were going to be the only ones around. And on a normal year, you can't make a peep, man. We're in the dugout. You got to be quiet and, just professional about it, per se. And we started joking around saying, hey, we just newly acquired Mike Moustakis. And we were joking around saying, hey, let's like buy some like moose antlers or something and like sunglasses. And like someone, one of our guys, Alex Quartercamp, showed up with a moose crossing sign. And then next thing you know, like we started yelling and just yelling moose and doing the mooses over there with our hands over our head and just yelling for them. And next day, like one of the next couple of days, Joey Votto comes up to me and Steve and was like, hey, like, I love what you guys are doing. Like, we got to keep this going. You guys are giving us some type of atmosphere, makes it feel normal. And that was our biggest thing. Like to them, like it felt like brought back some point of like normality to what our game normally is. And he goes, hey, like, I'm going to buy you guys a couple instruments. And Steve and I both right away were like, dude, if anybody knows Joey doesn't ever do anything like to a small scale. Like if Joey's going to do it, Joey's going to go big. It's like, here we go. Like full send. Like, well, boys, I sent her a little too hard. Like we're going all the way. So we walk in the next day.
See, we're not that old. We've got that down,
Right, yeah.
All my kids, that's right.
Right.
Full send is still a thing. Sorry.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So we show up like that Monday or whatever, the next homestand that they were back in town. And they say, hey, we have an Amazon order for you guys from Votto. It's at the dock. You got to go pick it up. So we go up there, man. There's 5 boxes of things. Like tambourines, vuvuzelas, like blowhorns. We're like, yeah, they're absolutely not going to let us use the blowhorns. That ain't happening. Like all these instruments and tambourines and just rock 'em like stuff. And so we just start going all out and just the guys are loving it. And, they're telling us every day how much they appreciate it. And, next thing we know, we start getting calls to do interviews, on MLB Network, on everything. And it's just like, guys, we can't stop now. And that's where and in this industry, it's a small knit industry, everybody knows everybody. And when you're up here, you start meeting people. And, Steve was in Texas for years. And when he was the assistant there, Derek Holland was one of their pitchers. And he was on Pittsburgh last year. And I'll never forget, I remember he was coming in town and he had a great relationship with Steve. And they still talk to this day. And Steve was like, dude, he's a diehard Michigan fan. And I was like, oh, heck no. We cannot let that happen around here. And I have a Buckeye helmet in my office that sits there. And Steve just happened to have a Michigan State flag in his office. So I strapped up that helmet. I put it on when Holland was coming in and the flag and everything. And, dude, we let it rip. And Derek was out there on the mound. You could see him laughing. And it was just one of those things. And like a lot of the guys just loved it. And, I shouldn't say all of them because there was a team in town and there's an interview online of like later in the season last year. And someone told Joey at first base after they got a hit and everything. And I think he was on the Cubs. I can't remember. But someone told Joey, was like, God, I cannot stand those guys. Like, they are terrible. And Joey just looked right at him and goes, good, that's the point.
So he was probably like, duh. Like,
yeah.
Why do you think I got them all this stuff? That's right. The whole point of this. What are you talking about?
I'm trying to create a home field advantage. And, and we just took it and ran with it. We loved it, man. It was a lot of fun. And it just kind of bridged that gap, that professional level where people say like, oh, like players and groundskeepers, they just, they don't talk. There's that, there's that fine line. And dude, it just around here, like between the interns, just like I was saying earlier, like, we can't live without our crew. We can't live without our interns. And like between the team and us, dude, it's just a giant family around here. And that's the one greatest thing about the Cincinnati Reds is just, everybody believes in each other. And, I think that it was just, they truly looked forward to seeing us, what we were doing every night. And we looked forward to the playoff run that we went on last year and ended that drought, that the Reds were on for so long.
Absolutely. And I mean, it had to be a blast, and especially be able to take it to the playoffs like that. Again, like you said, the players were appreciative, but like in that time, I couldn't imagine hearing a bat with nothing being heard afterwards,
Yeah.
like it's crazy.
One of the biggest things was, and I'll never forget, because those moments, dude, you made relationships with even teams out of town, because, dude, they even got to the point where there was no one to talk to while they were on the fields. There was no interaction. So like we were the only ones. So like sometimes they wouldn't interact with us. Some would. It just depended on who was out there, and I'll never forget, Anthony Rizzo was one that was with the Cubs, and he started joking back with us and nonstop, just would go back and forth with us. And one of the biggest jokes that we started with him was, and he just busted out laughing and couldn't stop. And we told him that his wife's cookies tasted like mayonnaise. And, and it was like one of the most random things, but it was like, it worked. And it like, dude, he lost it. And it was just like, where did you guys even come up with that? We're like, I don't know, man. It just came off the cuff and we just started running with it. And before the end of it, like Alex Polnow, who is now in Nashville, one of our former interns and great up and coming guys in this industry as well. He started joking with him and was like, hey man, like sign my polo for me. And let's do a jersey swap.
So that was him in the jersey swap. Yeah. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So we ended up and Rizzo was like, this was the first time they were in town. And Rizzo was like, dude, last time that we're here, we'll do it. And the last game of the year that they were here, all of a sudden after the game, he comes walking out of the dugout as we're doing post game, and he's got his jersey off and he's like, hey, let's do it. Like I told you guys. And like, nobody thought that he would actually do it. Yeah. And he comes out and had us sign the polo for him. And he signed the jersey and had the best grounds crew in the league on it, written on it, and signed his name. And, that was just a year that you just won't ever forget, like for good and bad reasons.
Absolutely. And I love when you have those guys like Rizzo, who remember after saying, yeah, I'll do it, like, and then like Votto being the guy saying, hey, I want you to do more, like spending his own money to have that opportunity. That's just, it's awesome to see those big names have just the same interaction as a normal human, which a lot of people lose in a sense, and I think that it helps, especially like in our position when we are working, like we're not here to like be admiring or anything like that. We're working as a professional, and they understand that. So I'm sure that was awesome to have that opportunity,
Right.
With everything. And again, even now, I shouldn't say post-COVID because obviously it's still a thing and I don't want to get yelled at.
Right.
Baseball can be pretty redundant when it comes to groundskeeping these. And don't get me wrong, things happen, things change, but there's a routine to it. You come in, you're cleaning the warning track up, you got to mow the infield, outfield, water the collar, water everything. Like everything has to be done. What is it that's your favorite part of the job, and how has that sort of been the thing that has brought you and kept you with baseball, because again, that niche and everything. I loved baseball because I was a baseball player, that was what I wanted to do. But again, I gained a love for everything else in a sense with football and being able to do other things. But what is it for you that is baseball that is sort of that underlying factor that says I'll always be a baseball groundskeeper?
For me, it became that whole whirlwind of a day where you're flying around, and whether it's you're mowing in the morning and getting the mounds ready, making sure that everything's tidied together, whether it's, that blowing of the track, like you said, watering the track, watering the infield, getting the infield, the edges pulled back in that we blew out from the night before, or everything like that. And then all of a sudden, running around all day, whether it's for BP, everything, it might get redundant at times, but I think your day is so quick that you don't have time to let it get redundant because you don't have time to think about it. Because once you go in the morning and then all of a sudden you sit down and eat lunch real quick, come back out, water everything again, get everything ready to go. And then all of a sudden it's BP. But I think the thing for me that locked it in of that I knew that I was home per se, whether it was baseball, football, or golf, was like once the dust settles from that whirlwind of a day, all of a sudden you see the lights come on. You see that field on TV. You watch that kid and his dad walk into the stadium for the first time, right? And his eyes just light up. I say, Dad, look at them running on that field. Look at that field out there. Or it's that memorable moment when that kid sees a baseball stadium for the first time, and that field out there. And when that dust settles and you hear someone just say like, dude, like look at that out there, and it's just like, yeah, like that last 10 hours that I just busted my butt for, like. People notice and see that, and that's what it's that gratitude that it's like, yeah, man, like that's pretty darn cool, and it just makes you come back every day.
For sure. So I don't know if you know Dr. Goatley, he's out of Virginia Tech, but he taught my capstone class, so like the last course you take before you graduate, and his first class, I carry this with me every day, when we're working on stuff, and I try and instill to my kids, you are so much more than a groundskeeper. You're so much more than a grass cutter. You're so much more than that because you are making memories, whether that's at the little league level where you're taking care of that field where kids are going to make memories. They're going to have that championship game. They hit a home run in the bottom of the sixth and they won, or like you just said, you can be working on a major league field where you're working every day, and that moment when the fans come in and they're like, this is going to be one of the most craziest moments of my life as such a young kid, that's what it's all about, and I couldn't agree with you more on that. I do to say this a lot too. I remember when I was a kid, I actually got to go to Shea Stadium when Pete Flynn had the cityscape mowed into the field.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. I felt so guilty because I was more excited about the fact that I've seen Mike Piazza play than the cityscape, even though the cityscape is literally one of the most incredible things done on a athletic field anywhere, because there were no robots, there were no anything. And I'm like, wow, Drew, you're a real ass for that,
Paid no attention to that, but Mike Piazza did great that night.
I did say, wow, that's incredible. I didn't. After that, it was just Mike Piazza all day.
Yeah.
Something I sort of asked you this already, but it's in a different sense. With our jobs in sports turf, there's a big organization with the STMA. How has that sort of played a role in your career? Again, with your career, you've had such a different approach, not an approach, but like story compared to most people, being there to get into it and then have to get your education because you're in it. A lot of people don't do that. It's usually education. I found this thing that I want and I'm going to go get my education in order to get it. You were in it, and everything that goes into that. The STMA, I'm sure, had somewhat of a role, but how has that sort of had an influence on your career, and how has that membership been a benefit to you when it comes to sort of how you've gotten to this point?
Dude, I can't explain it enough that actually, believe it or not, like STMA plays a huge role, and OTF, because of the fact of networking. And that's another thing to these young kids is like, guys, get involved. Like, go to these meetings, come to OTF, come to STMA, because networking is so huge in our industry. And that's just like, that's kind of where I have gotten. That's why I am where I am now, because when I was at OTF or when I was at Cleveland Browns, I met one of my biggest mentors in this industry who I owe everything in our industry. His name is Matt Duncan, and everybody knows Matt Duncan in this industry. Matt Duncan showed me everything And he got me, I went to OTF for my first time with him, and he introduced me to so many people there. And then all of a sudden you just start running with it, and you start running with those people. And then I started running with the Nielsen Mafia and learning from all them, and watching Tommy and Todd Schaefer, how they do everything, and how everybody looks up to them. And then you go to STMA and start meeting everybody down there. And that's how you find out about these jobs and these people, because, I tell people all the time, like, that run their own field and everything, like, never stop learning. It's one of those things where you can never know enough. Like, where even if a kid comes to me from, let's say, Iowa State and says, hey, like, we do it there this way, like, okay, show me. Because guess what? Like, things might have evolved and made me learn, and like, so, like, hey, it might be a better way to do it, so let's do it. And that's the greatest thing about STMA and OTF, is being able to talk to those kids or those people and seeing how they do things, and it might make my job today easier.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Because again, I mean, when it comes to I talk about how my first time I met Matt Brown, who gave me my first shot at any level higher than, again, a student worker at Tech. But that was just on a whim. Like, I saw a posting at STMA. I was like, well, I'm a New York Mets fan. I might as well apply, And I just remember interviewing with Matt, and the rest is history. Now I've got this network that's massive, and I know we met actually at STMA. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. So again, it's even like a short meeting like that. I mean, we had a 5-minute conversation and no more than that. But at the same time, like, I know I can reach out to you because of that, and having that connection throughout the whole industry. Again, not a lot of industries have that, you know what I mean? And I understand some are vast and large, but I think it's just so cool how we're able to do that with the STMA, and even crossing over into the GCSAA, making those two groups connected. It's great to see. So I want to sort of shift to field maintenance and whatnot, and everything that you have going on. You're in a very unique location where you're at when it comes to preparation leading up to the actual season. You got a little bit of the colder side, your bluegrass and everything. What is it that you're focusing on, sort of on prepping for the season, heading into, again, another big year for what you want your first game to play as the same as your last game? What is it you're focusing on?
You mean as just how the field plays overall, or like what's our main goal? Coming out of the winter, obviously we're going to put our blankets on to start waking her up a little bit, just as you said, because of how cold it can get here. We don't see much snow in Cincinnati this past year. We got a lot more than we'd ever seen. I think it was the most in 10 years. Granted, coming from a guy that did live in New Hampshire for a year, that was nothing compared to New Hampshire. So, we watch it there, and then basically once those blankets come off, usually we'll leave them on for about a month, and then you take them off right around St. Patrick's Day, give or take, usually. And then it's kind of hit the ground running, man. You take those blankets off, and hopefully things woke up big time, which normally they do. Usually we have some really good temperatures, and it really helps things green up for how quick we start. And I apologize to any college groundskeeper. I know you guys start a lot earlier, or high school for that matter. I know you guys are trying to battle, into February almost. So, once you take those blankets off, that's the first time you're looking for any funguses, anything like that, to make sure that we're good to go. And then, that mid-April and May, rain and cold becomes, a big concern. This year, we played 2 games in the snow. Opening day, we were mowing in the snow. So that's that's a big concern. And then all of a sudden you shift from that to start worrying about the heat. And now surviving the heat and drought most of the time, because, it never fails, man. It never rains when they're out of town. Never.
Mother Nature. She just hates us all.
Yeah. So
I've had 3 months of no rain, and my irrigation was out for a month and a half because they didn't have a part to fix in our well. Guess what the past week is? And our first scrimmage was last Thursday.
Rain.
7 inches of rain. I'm sitting here like, what do you want from me, Mother Nature, huh? And it's been pouring all week, and I'm like, I can't take it anymore. I'm done.
No, I hear you, and that's the biggest thing. We can never get what we want with Mother Nature, and it's just you used to be with the ryegrass that we would look for gray leaf spot all the time. Now that we've transferred away from ryegrass to Kentucky blue, you're looking for more like the summer patch and things like that. So it's transitioned a little bit, and it just overall pretty happy this year where we're at right now.
With everything, again, that summer patch is a really big deal. I remember in New York, Bill Deacon was fighting that a lot. And it was great I know it was bad to see it, but at the same time, it was great to learn when it popped up. What are you doing to sort of prevent that the best you can? Because again, sometimes it's just like you have those days, 3 days in a row where it's so hot, and it's just burning the bluegrass and it's so hard for it and whatnot. So what is it you're doing to sort of be preventative in that measure?
Just trying to watch your water, how much you water and how wet it's getting in those heat moments. And making sure that the moisture is right down inside that leaf tissue. And I'll be honest, this year we did start to show a little bit of not gray leaf spot. Sorry. So used to saying that, right? And then, but we did start to see a little bit of summer patch, but we attacked it early and had no damage at all. We got it very, very early. We caught it in its early stages, I should say. And we're able to get rid of it and without any damage. We were pretty lucky that, Derek and everybody caught it very quickly. But yeah, I think the big thing, man, is just trying to manage your moisture as much as you can. And I know all the time you can't do that. I mean, you try the best you can, but Mother Nature has other opinions sometimes, and especially with humidity the way it is sometimes, it stinks.
Absolutely. It is not fun one bit. I mean, it's just like, give us some time, like one homestand, no tarp poles, right? Just one.
Yeah.
I will say that because literally the only thing that I could not stand about my job when I was working with the Pirates and Mets was the tarp. It was like, just leave it off. Let it rain. We'll fix it tomorrow, Right. But with all of that, a lot of, again, and I forget who it was. Somebody made like a video the other day that explained to the real world that when the team goes out of town, you guys don't get a break. What is it that you're focusing on? You're obviously aerating and all that, but what are you focusing on whether it's cores, solid time, maybe bayonet, and then how often are you top dressing and different things? Is there anything else that you're focusing on during that time frame when they're on the road?
Yeah, when they're on the road, it's go time, but in a different sense. It's time to recuperate and try to get her back in shape, so she's ready to rock and roll for next time. Whether that's aerifying the full field or just our high intense wear areas, whether that's down the foul lines or your position spots in the outfield or the back arc or the walk-up areas. 90% of the time we're just solid tines and with bayonets. And then in the fall we'll pull cores. And then this year we've top dressed twice. A couple of times we've held back on the top dress because of the fact of how hot it was. We knew that we were very well compacted because, of course, again, like I said, we've pulled tarp every homestand this year. So we knew we were really compacted, but we knew we needed to get it opened up. But at the same time, you didn't want to top dress because you're afraid of burning things out even more than you already were going to by opening it up in these high heat situations. So we've top dressed twice now on top of it. But, we've been throwing a lot of seed, and yeah, it's a battle, but your mind shifts every time they leave, whether it's recuperating the aeration or the resod spots. Luckily, we have battled this year to the point where we have only had to resod our position areas once. We've been able to battle back and have a lot of regrowth when the team's been out of town. Derek and I have been joking around a lot, but up until like the 12-game homestand right around July 4th, like we kept joking to each other. We were on a Operation No Sod, but like I would just go out there and attack it with a pitchfork and just drop seed in it and just drop it in real quick and just punch it in those wear areas, and it was working so well. But then we got to a July 4th area, that 12-game homestand, and I think that we had 3 or 4 delays that week, man. And it was just like, yeah, no shot. We got a sod. And it just, so when they left that time, we went into Operation Sod mode. And then, or sometimes your mind shifts to regrade the mounds. It's always something when they're out of town that needs to be caught back up that has been, beat up per se while the team's been home.
Absolutely. It's so crazy to me, like the amount of work that has to get done, and everybody's just like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. They'll be back in a week. You guys have it ready,
Yeah.
But I mean, it's crazy. With sort of everything that goes into that, there are new things coming out, whether that's the Air 2 G2 or whether that's, again, when you're talking about managing your irrigation, you can do that from your cell phone now, stuff like that, where technology is becoming very prevalent. I mean, we actually just got, and I know everybody's going to hate me, don't shoot me for getting a GPS painter. Okay.
Oh, boy.
It is not being used in our classes. Okay. I will show my kids how it works and whatnot, obviously, because my boss at the top bought it for us, but we're using it as a fundraising tool. Okay. Everybody hear that? Please don't get mad. I promise I am teaching the string and everything. Okay. We're going to do that. Please don't get mad. But the technology that's in that is insane. Watching it actually go and whatnot and seeing that and that becoming such a big part of our industry. Has there been anything that you guys have been able to bring in Cincinnati that you really are like, this is fantastic? Thank goodness we have this now. It makes it a lot easier on us.
I mean, to be honest, we keep it pretty simple here. We've used the Air 2 G2 here a couple times. I like it. I think it works great. Do we have one on site all the time? No. But we've used it a couple times. We have a pogo system. Absolutely love it. We use it all the time to check, how much moisture and everything. I live and die by that thing. I would say that's our biggest thing in the technology. Other than that, believe it or not, we still run our irrigation from a box. We don't even have it on our phones. Which causes nightmares because then you end up driving back down to the stadium to make sure that the irrigation is off when needed to be off. Did
I turn the switch?
Right, no. Dude, that is the worst.
Yes, I did. 3:00 in the morning. I gotta go check.
Yeah, no, and you'll lay there thinking about it all night, and that's just, we blow out our edges with a air compressor. I don't know. We keep it pretty simple here. Besides our pogo, we don't use much technology around here. Pretty old school, I guess.
There's nothing wrong with that. It works.
And we paint with a wheel to wheel, not have a GPS system do it for us. Thanks, man.
Okay. This is great. Now I'm gonna be the laughing stock of the turf industry. This is great. No, but I mean, it's pretty cool. It's making money for my kids. I can't complain. It's great.
Right.
With everything that goes into it and whatnot, there are a lot of different stresses that come into effect. There are so many different things, whether that's, okay, you're just talking about you're laying in bed, did I turn the irrigation off, stuff like that. And then you bring in the human factor. You have this crew that needs to get stuff done. Are they working coherently? Does someone hate the other person? Why are they not doing this right? What's going on? that's a whole different side to the job that a lot of people don't understand. And especially with your position as the assistant, you know, you're more in the middle of it than say Derek. And again, Derek, don't get mad. I understand you do a lot, but in the moment on the field, if there's something going on and you recognize it, what is it that you and Derek are focusing on to make sure that you are getting the best out of each person, you know? And you were talking about how it's sort of like this family atmosphere. And I feel like a lot of people use that sort of uh, uh, way of doing things. But again, families fight, you know, and there are issues and there are things that you work through. So if you could sort of talk about what you do during that 82 games, like making sure that everything's working and you're getting the best out of everyone in order to have that incredible field that you do at Great American Ballpark. Am I saying that right?
Great American Ballpark, yeah.
All right.
First of all, I don't really know what you're talking about, man. I've never fought or argued with anybody in my entire life, and there's no such thing as stress. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow, this is. I'm cutting the interview now. This is amazing.
No, dude. Yeah. That's the biggest thing is, you know, and I'm a huge proponent on that. I struggle, as do many in this country, with anxiety, and I think a lot of the times, you know, dude. First of all, end the stigma. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to be upfront with people. To talk to someone about it, it's okay. Especially with how much stress we put on ourselves, how much stress this job puts on us, as you said. You know, in finding that even keel moment, because let's face it, man. When you're in a 12-game homestand, dude, I see those kids and Derek more than I see my wife. You know, and whether it's finding that work-life balance during that homestand, whether it's on a good day, the next day saying, hey guys, here's the deal. We're going to come in at 11, but when you get here at 11, we're not going to take lunch. We're going to have to bust it all day to make sure, you know, that we get things done by practice. But it's allowing them to get that sleep that they deserve at night, or to wake up in the morning and have that cup of coffee on their own couch rather than rushing into work again to work another 15-hour day. Or it's taking them to lunch while they're there, or bringing them breakfast from McDonald's randomly just to say, hey, thanks guys. Like, and just letting them know that they're worth something to you. And just, yeah, I mean, dude, I'm not saying this is an end all be all, that this is going to cause, you know, that this is going to take all your problems away, because guess what? People are still going to argue when it's 97 degrees outside and you've been there together for 15 hours a day. Like, that's not what I'm saying. We just try to find the best way you possibly can, and just try not to yell at them. Try to understand that they're there just as long as you are, and going through the same heat and stipulations that you are. And they might not be going through the stress of the meetings or the stress of the higher ups or the rain decisions that you are, but at the same time, they're still there and their bodies are just as worn down as yours are. And just trying to relate and remember that, you know, that they're going through it just as much as you are.
Absolutely. And my kids argue with me all the time, so I understand.
Yeah, dude. Well, do we have to do it? Yeah. I wouldn't be telling you to do it if we didn't have to.
Yes, the tarp has to go back on the field. Yes.
Yeah. Trust me.
I said it.
My knees are screaming too.
I promise you it's going to rain. Mother Nature won't let it rain once we get it on the field, but it's going to rain if we don't put it on the field. So it's going on.
100%.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that we like to ask when we're here, that there's so many things, especially again with your unique story of having that time where you were working while at school. If there was something that you wanted to know when you first started that you know now, maybe not to make it easier or anything or better, but that would be helpful in the sense that you understood going into this industry and knowing what's going to happen. What would that be and why?
I think I knew, but but I don't think I understood it to the extent that I know it now. And that is how small knit this community is, and that you can rely on anybody at any time and never feel like you're alone. And I think a lot of the times these kids go into these places and get into a sticky situation where they don't know how to run a budget yet, and they're trying to ride it by the coattails and figure out how to run a budget, or how to figure out their fertilizer program or their spray programs. And just to understand that, like, dude, even if you get disease today, or if you accidentally leave your irrigation on during a game, or like, dude, we've all been there. And I think that's the biggest thing. And we had a kid this year where he ended up breaking a mower on the outer grounds. And it was his second day. And he came downstairs and you could just see it in his eyes. And he was like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired on my second day. And dude, I've seen way too many times where people get yelled and screamed at, for doing that. And the biggest thing is here, and I can thank Steve and Derek for that, for hammering this home in my head, is, all right, that kid comes down with that broken mower, right? You scream at him. Like, what does that do? Like, because that kid, it's his second day, right? And he wants to open up and be you one day. And if I scream at him today, and if I get down his throat, like, dude, he knows he screwed up. He knows he didn't go up there saying, I'm going to bust this mower tonight. Like, he didn't mean to do that. Like, so at the end of the day, even doesn't matter what situation you're in, there's always going to be someone you can talk to and know that everybody's been in your situation before. They've all screwed up. I've screwed up. I've had one of the most terrifying moments of my life was when we pulled the tarp in Lake County one night and we were stuck. We got stuck. The rain came too quick. We didn't get it on. Like, we've all been there at points where
I'm right there at that moment. I've had that moment.
Yeah, and
New York. Do you remember that?
Yeah, no, I remember. Yeah, and unfortunately, it gets glorified all over everywhere.
I got called Hollywood the next day because they kept zooming in on the fat guy. Like, hey, he can't move it. I'm like, really? I got like 25 texts the next morning. Like, you're on the top 10. I'm like, lovely.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
that. That's the text. Hey, I haven't talked to you in 4 years. It's nice to see you.
Yeah. But I think the biggest thing is to the kids in this industry is just like, stay connected. Know that you can talk to anybody at all the time. Like, that people's phones are always open, and that it is a small knit community, and know that everybody talks and everybody is willing to be there for you. And, that you're always going to be learning, and, just make those phone calls. Don't be afraid to be like, hey, this is what's going on my field right now. Like, I'm not happy how it looks, but like, can you help? And dude, 99% of the time, even if you call me and I might not know, guess what? I'm going to call TJ Brewer at the Bengals and be like, hey man, what's your thoughts on this? Like, there's always somebody that you can call, and I'll get back to you. Like, I might not get back to you in 5 minutes, but if I'm double checking my sources to make sure that I got the right answer for you, like, that's the biggest thing in this industry, is just know how tight knit this, like, everybody has everybody's back.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I mean, it's incredible to see, and hopefully one day we can expand that, that reach, and bring in that next generation of kids, so here's hoping. You kind of answered this question, but we always ended on this one. Especially with you in the MLB and working in baseball, what would be your best words of advice for a young individual who might be interested in entering this field specifically for baseball?
Stay driven. Don't give up, even though times are going to get hard. It might seem like you might be stuck or you don't know where to go. Whether it's the middle of a homestand or just frustration at the moment of not progressing where you want to be, and maybe wanting to shoot for the stars. And, that's the biggest thing, is just stay driven and, go get what you want. Like, no one's holding you back. And that's, from day one, I knew where I wanted to go and what I wanted to accomplish and what my end goal was. And, it didn't matter where I was going to put out the best field possible. And, and do the best I possibly could, and and doing everything to my best abilities. And my biggest thing is just, like I said, just stay connected and keeping the close contacts with people that you have created friendships with. And that's, ever since, I can't tell you how many friends I've created in this industry just because of being here for 9 years now. Just stay connected. Don't be afraid to ask people things, and, stay driven would be my biggest point of advice. And find that work-life balance. That's huge.
Much easier said than done, right? Is that the right saying? I can't think of it in my head.
The work-life balance part?
That part, yes, definitely. Well, I can't thank you enough. This has been incredible, and I appreciate you. Again, such short notice in the middle of a homestand and everything. This was fantastic. I can't thank you enough. I hope that you have the best rest of your season. Hopefully, we get to see you in Savannah. We're hopefully bringing some kids down and we're presenting. So hopefully, I'm not gonna say anything with COVID.
Yeah, absolutely, man.